Today we're making chicken cutlets. These are a classic childhood favorite of mine, and I'm going to show you how to make a restaurant quality version that's crispy on the outside, juicy on the inside, and packed with flavor. Let's get right into it. We're going to start off with 2 chicken breasts that I've already patted dry with some paper napkins. You really want to make sure to get all that juice from the packaging off, or nothing will stick to the chicken later on. Now we're going to press down 1 chicken breast flat on a cutting board. With the other hand, I'm sliding the knife in between the breast to cut it in half horizontally. Be really careful here, don't angle your knife upwards or you might cut into your palm. Instead, try to keep it even or angle it slightly down. This takes some practice, so if you're not comfortable with it right away, we're going to do a different method in a second. Once you've cut through the breast, you'll notice that one piece is thinner than the other. This thin piece is what we want all our cutlets to look like. Now I'm taking the thicker piece and slicing it again to get another thin and another thick piece. Then we're going to slice that thicker piece one last time, and now we've got 4 cutlets from 1 breast. If you don't feel comfortable slicing the breast into thin cutlets like this, here's a safer way to do it. We're going to cut the breast in half and place one of the halves between 2 sheets of plastic wrap. Then we're going to flatten the breast by pounding it with a pot or a meat mallet. This gives you larger cutlets, but is way safer if you're not confident with your knife yet. I also do this if the last cutlet is somewhat thicker. The goal here is for the cutlets to have an even thickness, so that they cook evenly. If there's a thin part and a thicker part, the thin section will cook faster and become drier by the time the thicker part gets a chance to cook through. That's why people end up with cutlets that are drier than a piece of cardboard. Now we're going to take all these cutlets and place them onto a sheet pan with a rack. Then we're going to hit them with some salt on both sides, but don't go too crazy here. The cutlets are really thin, so you don't need to season it like you would a steak, but we still do need to season them lightly. A great tip I learned in culinary school is to season your food in layers. If you want your food to be flavorful throughout the entire bite, you need to continuously season it throughout the recipe. So we're seasoning the chicken now to start building that first layer of flavor. People often find their food is missing something because they only season their food at the end. Now let's talk about our breading station. We're going to grab 3 pans that can fit the length of our cutlets. In the first pan, we're going to start by making our seasoned flour. Add 1 cup of all-purpose flour along with 1 teaspoon each of garlic powder, onion powder, ground black pepper, Italian seasoning, and salt. Then we're going to give that a good mix so that everything's well combined. This adds another layer of flavor to our cutlets when we go to dredge them. Next, we're going to crack 3 eggs into the second pan and scramble them really well to make our egg wash. Some people like to add milk or cream or even water to their egg wash, but I like to keep it simple by just scrambling the eggs really well. You want to scramble them until there's little to no visible egg whites left. The more uniform your egg wash is, the better the breadcrumb will stick later on. Now we're going to set up our breading station in an order that flows well so that the ingredients don't end up all over the table. The order we're going to go in is flour, then eggs, then breadcrumbs. Now we're going to take our first cutlet and dredge it in the flour, making sure both sides are well coated. Then we're going to give that a good shake and place it into the egg wash. Make sure the entire cutlet is coated in the egg and let the excess drip off before placing it into the breadcrumbs. Then place the cutlet into the breadcrumbs and sprinkle some on top. You really want to press the cutlet into the crumbs to make a nice sturdy coat. This will make sure our breading sticks and stays uniform when we go to fry. We're going to repeat this process until all the cutlets are breaded. If we only use breadcrumbs without the flour and eggs, the breadcrumbs will fall right off when we go to fry our cutlets. That's why the other ingredients are really important, because when we combine the flour with the egg wash, it creates this sort of glue that keeps the breadcrumbs stuck to the chicken. I seasoned the breadcrumbs with the same seasoning as the flour. Instead of a cup of flour, I used a cup of Italian breadcrumbs and added half a cup of grated Parmesan cheese. This adds yet another layer of flavor. While I do love panko breadcrumbs, I don't recommend using them for this recipe. Panko is great for making Japanese-style cutlets, also known as katsu, but it'll give you an entirely different texture. Try to find Italian breadcrumbs, or you can make them yourself with some toasted stale bread. Don't worry about placing them on a different rack, as we're about to cook them. Also, notice how when I go to bread the cutlets, I'll keep 1 hand for the wet ingredients and 1 hand for the dry ingredients. This way our hands don't become coated in a glob of breading. Once they're all evenly coated, we're going to get our frying station set up. I like to fry my chicken cutlets in a shallow pan just like this one. It's just easier to clean later on, and it uses a lot less oil than deep frying them. We're going to fill the pan to about 1/4 of the way up with canola oil. You can also use vegetable oil or avocado oil if you have that instead. Any seed oil with a high smoke point will do the trick. We're going to heat up the oil till it gets to around 375 degrees Fahrenheit. That way when we place the cold cutlets into the oil, the temperature drops to around 350. We want to keep that temp around 350 while the cutlets cook. Only add about 2 cutlets at a time to prevent overcrowding the pan. If you dump them all in at the same time, the temperature will drop super fast and you'll end up with soggy, greasy cutlets instead of nice and crispy ones. Every minute or so, we're going to give the cutlets a flip to make sure they cook evenly. They're so thin that they should finish cooking up in about 3 minutes or so. Once the cutlets are finished cooking, we're going to place them onto a rack lined with a paper towel. I find that when I just use a rack, the cutlets tend to be greasy on the bottom, but when I use just a paper towel, the side touching the napkin gets really soggy. So instead, I place them on a paper towel to first absorb some of that excess grease, and then I move them onto the rack to finish cooling off. This method keeps them clean and crispy on all sides. Now I'm going to fry off the rest of the cutlets, and after each batch I'm going to let the oil come up to temp before starting the next round. There's no need to rush it. Make sure to take your time so that all the cutlets come out crispy and golden brown. Once all our cutlets are fried off, we're going to hit them with a final sprinkle of salt. With any fried food, you always want to add a final touch of salt so you can properly taste the breading. A little salt goes a long way at the end. Let's see how these came out. Let's grab a fork so you can hear how crispy these are. That sound alone is telling me these came out great. Time for a bite. Oh, these came out so good. Look at how crispy the breading is, and the chicken is cooked perfectly. Let's go plate these up before I eat them all. Don't stack the cutlets while they're still piping hot. The steam coming off of them will make them soggy. Instead, let them cool off a bit before plating them up for the table. I always plate my cutlets with some lemon wedges on the side. They just taste incredible with a simple squeeze of lemon right on top. But my favorite way to serve these is to take some arugula that's been dressed in some lemon juice and olive oil, pile it right on top, and shave some fresh Parmesan right over it. This is one of my favorite lunches or even a light dinner when you're strapped for time. The freshness from the arugula salad right on top pairs great with the crispy cutlets. Now you know how to make a proper batch of chicken cutlets right at home. If you liked today's recipe, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you don't miss what's coming next. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace!